Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
So the question is going to be, in a couple years, will you have your portrait as you sit now, or the portrait as when you were elected?
I'll have a portrait as when I was about 60.
Okay. I didn't
We
know.
had the pictures taken.
Yeah.
The photographer, I coordinated all that photography a few years ago. And he gave me a big framed portrait.
Oh, so you already have it. Okay.
Well, and I can't accept gifts.
Sure.
So I accepted on behalf of the county.
Okay.
So I have it in a box and it's ready to go.
Oh, it makes
But
sense.
it's the picture that's out there. It's pre-ponytail picture, so
Gotcha.
about 30 pounds lighter too. So good morning, Ms. Davis. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call the case. This is in the matter of Alondra Aguilar. That's you?
Yeah.
And you're here with your lawyer, Mr. Timothy Reed. Also present is prosecuting attorney Deborah Davis. And Ms. Davis inherited this case from previous prosecutor David Marvin. This is a very difficult case, as they often are. The most difficult cases that district judges do are these types of cases. This used to be called negligent homicide. You were driving a car and there was an accident and someone was killed. It was called negligent homicide and it was a misdemeanor, although it was a high court misdemeanor, and it was charged in circuit court, punishable by up to 2 years imprisonment and a suspension of your driving privileges. Several years ago, the Michigan State Legislature did away with that statute, and they replaced it by something called moving violation causing a death. And that is a misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in jail and a fine of up to $2,000. It is a district court case. It is a death caused by carelessness or a moving violation. And they're almost always without a good answer. People lost their loved ones. It devastated their lives. It altered the course of the rest of their life and left a big hole. Very often the driver, this goes under the category of there, but for the grace of God, go you or I. You're tuning your radio, you're looking in the back seat to see what your child is doing. You cross the center line and someone is killed. We have a lot of these. I've been here for 45 years, and there have been literally hundreds of these during my career, and each one is as difficult as the one before. This case is alleged to have occurred. In fact, it did occur on December 9th of 2020, 5 years and 5 months ago. It frankly was poorly investigated by the sheriff's department. There's no more diplomatic way to put it. The allegation is that on December 9th of 2020, Alondra Aguilar was driving a car on US 12 outside of Sturgis. And her moving violation would allege to be that she crossed the center line, hitting a vehicle which had in it Daniel Waring and Mose Bontrager, and both of those gentlemen were killed. I understand some of the families may be watching this remotely. Is anyone here from the family of Mr. Bontrager? Thank you for being here. And Mr. Waring? All right, thank you for being here. Now, Miss Aguilar lives in Indiana, just over the state line. And she cooperated with the police in the course of this investigation, and she didn't go anywhere. And the police completed their report and submitted it to the prosecutor's office. The previous prosecutor, Mr. Marvin, authorized this in February of 2021. And for reasons I still don't understand, they didn't arrest Ms. Aguilar for 3 years. All they had to do was call her on the phone and she would have presented herself. I wrote to the previous undersheriff who was there and asked him to look into this to find out what happened, and never really got a response. Anyway, 3 years pass for the Waring family, for the Troyer family, and for Miss Aguilar, and nothing happens. And then she gets stopped for some traffic violation or something, and they found this warrant and she was arrested. And she retained Mr. Reed. I don't believe any additional investigation was done in this case from February of 2021 until she was arrested. The matter was set for trial. I think it was adjourned and reset for a trial way out, like 120 days out, to give the prosecutor and the defense an opportunity to prepare for the trial. I blocked out 2 days of court time, more if needed, and we didn't have a trial. There was a plea agreement that was entered, agreed upon by Mr. Marvin and Mr. Reed. The defendant, Ms. Aguilar, pled no contest to 2 counts of a moving violation causing death. One for the Mose Bontrager and one for Daniel Waring. I said Troyer, that's a different person. And the matter was set for sentencing under the delayed sentencing statute, which is 771.1, for 6 months. With the following agreement. The charges would be dismissed and 1 count of careless driving would be entered. If she completed the driver's safety course and had no additional violations pending that date and now. So the date for sentencing was today. I have received confirmation that Ms. Aguilar has completed the Michigan, it was the Michigan course that you took.
Yes.
Although you still have an Indiana driver's license.
Yeah.
And you completed that course successfully. I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand for a minute. You swear or affirm any testimony you're about to give here will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief.
Yeah.
Have you received any other traffic citations or been charged with any other criminal matters since you entered this plea?
No,
And there's nothing pending against you now?
no.
All right. Miss Deborah Davis is here and her staff has been all over this, which I greatly appreciate. They contacted the family of Mr. Waring and they contacted the family of Mr. Bontrager, and they are here. I apologize that it took from December of 2020 to April of 2025 to bring this matter to a close. I'm embarrassed. But we are here. I'm advised by the victim advocate staff of Miss Davis that the families would like to speak. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of Daniel Waring? All right, Ms. Davis, are you ready for all this?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like them to be able to speak first.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to speak first?
Would you like her to stand or sit?
You can sit if you're being more comfortable. Good morning. I see you got a friend there with you.
Was made out of my uncle's t-shirt.
All right, thank you. What's your name?
Brittany Zamora. Yeah.
All right, what would you like me to know?
I just wrote a letter to her.
Would you like to read it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I might stutter through it.
You're fine.
Dear Alondra, I have started this letter more times than I can count. Every time I try to write it, I am flooded with emotion. But I think you should know who Daniel Waring was. He was the man my mother named my middle name after, who I was blessed to name my son after as well. Uncle Danny was a kind-hearted man, caring, dependable, and trustworthy. He taught my husband what a true man is, what a father is, and how to be a husband that I needed. He loved his family unconditionally, no matter what they did, good or bad. When my husband came home after serving 14 years in prison, my uncle was the first one to welcome him into the family with open arms and never judged him once. My husband finally had a dad to learn from. Uncle Danny would drop anything if you needed him. He showed kindness without being asked. He loved duck hunting with family, friends, and his dog. He told the worst jokes that somehow always made you laugh. Most importantly, he was my aunt's soulmate, a devoted son, a loving father, a brother, a grandpa, and an irreplaceable uncle. I could go on forever about him, but what I really need to say is how deeply this has broken us. On December 9th, 2020, while I was getting my kids ready for work, and before I woke my babies up, I received a call from my favorite aunt. It was odd because she never called that early. When I answered, it wasn't her voice, but her sister's, saying, "Britt, it's Tara. We need to get a hold of your Nana. We tried but can't reach her." And then the pain came. "Your uncle has been killed in a car accident on his way to work." I dropped my phone, dropped to my knees, screaming and crying, unable to control the flood of emotions. I had to get my kid ready for daycare still in that state of mind. I couldn't even remember if I put their shoes on them. My daughter was 12 years old at the time, and she did the best she could to help me. Then I had to drive to my Nana and Papa's house and knock on their door to tell them the worst news imaginable, that their son had died. My mom was out of town for work, so I had to call her workplace and ask to speak to her and deliver the news over the phone. I didn't want my mom to hear it like that, but I had no choice. I had to be the one to tell her that her brother, her first best friend in life, was gone. I had to call my sister and tell her as well. Telling someone you love them that another person they loved has died, it breaks something in you. But I should not have to be the one to bring that pain. It should have been the person that made the choice to drive a car she knew had bad brakes, the one who chose to speed. It should have been you. Some of your friends and family reached out to me saying they were sorry for your actions. A woman that was 2 cars behind my uncle kept contacting me to express her condolences and to keep updated about the case. You didn't, not once. In court, you claimed you didn't know that you had a warrant, but that's not true. Your own cousin told me you did know. You yourself messaged my cousin Krista, Daniel's daughter, saying you knew. You have shown no remorse. You have took 2 lives that day, and you get to walk free. An online class is not justice for either families. I watched you sit in this courtroom hallway laughing with your family while we stood there broken. Sorry. I had to go cry in the bathroom because seeing your face brought every ounce of anger back up in me again. I carry anger in my heart that it hurts to the core. I haven't been able to grieve probably, because how do you grieve when there is no justice? My family has been through counseling just to deal with depression. That day you didn't just take my uncle, you took a piece of us that we can never get back. Relationships have strained. My aunt no longer has her anniversary to celebrate with her soulmate. Uncle Danny never will get to meet his grandkids that have been born since then, or my baby girl. He won't be able to celebrate birthdays, graduations, or holidays. My Nana will never get a dozen carnations from him on Mother's Day that he did every single year. My mom is an only child now. Her brother was supposed to be here to help her take care of their parents. Everything feels emptier without him. I hope that one day I can forgive you, Alondra, but right now I don't know if that's possible.
Is that Danny's picture on your shirt
It
there?
is.
Can you
And
stand
these
up?
are his ashes. This is the only thing we have of him, his ashes and a bear meat of his shirt.
I do like the bear. It makes me smile.
We got these for Christmas from his daughter.
One thing you did remark that she didn't contact you, that's almost universal. Once they're charged with something, they very rarely does that happen. And once an attorney gets involved, the attorney says, please don't contact them. I've seen it a few times, but it's very rare. So that's not uncommon. You told me something I didn't know, that there was a witness car, 2 cars behind.
Yes.
I don't know if that's in the report anywhere. But thank you for being here, and it's important to share that. And I'm sorry it took so long to get there. But thank you. I think that was from the heart, and it was important for everybody to hear it. Would you like to speak also? All right, what's your name?
Lisa Perkins. I'm Danny's sister.
All right, come up if you would.
So as Brittany said, I was away. It was the year 2020. Alondra, can you just look at me?
No, you can just sit down.
Okay.
You can speak to me, but she can see
So it
you.
was the year 2020. And everybody was in the world was worried about COVID, thinking it would take their loved ones.
Yes.
I was off to a hospital in Carroll, Michigan. I live in Kalamazoo. I was at a hospital helping them out with COVID because we had quarantine and isolation, and so many of the staff were getting sick. They needed extra staff. So I went there and I got the worst phone call in my life. Now, I sympathize with her and I want her to know that. That's why I wanted her to look at me, because I want to tell her that. Okay, I got that news. I was in such shock. I don't remember driving. And we're talking about a driving case. I myself, Alondra, don't remember driving from Carroll to just above Battle Creek, which was probably a couple hours until it finally hit me. So I know things can happen. I know accidents happen. I too, Alondra, had girls your age and always worried when they were out. I worried about them being in accidents, being on your phone, looking for a water bottle, causing an accident. So I understand accidents can happen. But when it happened, it took something that it affected all of us. The Bontrager family, he was a young father. I speak for his family too, because they're in the Amish community.
How did the 2 men know each other?
So my brother picked him up every day for work. My brother was a very loving and kind person. We're not opposites in that, but we're opposites. He's very quiet, very shy, very
So
laid back.
were they on their way to work?
And he had picked him up and they were on their way to work that morning.
Okay.
And he has a big truck, but it was out of gas just about, and it was a long way to go to Indiana from Bronson. So he took the little car. My sister-in-law had a little car. And so they packed them big selves in there and in that little car and their lunch, and off to work they went. And I was for some reason, things get told that she was on her way to work that morning too. Okay, so we know, we all agree that we know no phone, no drugs, nothing like that. Accident. The key word there, accident. And the law is the law, and we understand that. And we understand that even though 2 lives were taken and it was an accident, it doesn't make it any less different than if it wasn't. It hurts the same when somebody's taken from you. And so as a mother, I sympathize and I understand. But as someone who's lost a loved one, to see some sort of justice, we just want a little bit of something that says, I'm sorry. Something from the justice system that says, there is a price to pay sometimes when this happens, even though we're not asking. I don't want a young woman's life to be taken from her. I would never ask that she'd go to get a two life sentences because she took 2 lives. It was an accident, and as a mother, I understand that those happen. But we want to see some sort of restitution, some sort of I'm sorry. I know you say they can't do that.
Well, she may be able to do it today.
That means a lot to families, I think. That, as much as I sympathize with her, I would think that respect was shown back, that somebody was sorry, because it is very hard when we've seen her know that she's been out and about for the last 4 years in the community. She can live her life. She can marry. She can have kids. She can see her grandkids. You know, this is something that was taken away from us. Her mother didn't lose her child. Her sister didn't lose her sister. You know, she's still here. And we want her to make the most of her life, and we want it to be good, but we also know that we are hurt. And that my daughter especially was so close to my brother. Because as we grew up, I moved away and they stayed in the same neighborhood. And I moved to Kalamazoo, but they all live in the same area. And it's my dad's only son. My dad laid in bed and would speak to nobody for hours, days. I had to go in there and comfort my dad because he just didn't know how, being a pastor, he just didn't know how he struggled with what happened to his son. And he put his faith in God, as he always does, and he tried to help us out too. But my mother, her only son, her firstborn, to this day, she's not doing well. And 40 years he was with his wife. My mother wrote the very love letter that asked, my brother asked my mother to write the love letter to his wife to get her to go out with him, and she still has that in her photo album in my mom's handwriting. So he wasn't just a fly-by-night guy that come and went in everybody's life. He was our stable one. He was the good one. He was the quiet one, the family man, the one I named my daughter after. Not her dad, but my brother. She named her son after him. He meant a lot to us. And we just want to see justice be done and get a little bit of peace. I know it's not going to bring total peace, and nothing ever will. But we just ask the court to understand that our families, and Mo's family, Mo was a young married man with 2 young children, new wife, you know, and in the Amish community, he was the pillar. He was the pillar of his family. She was lost without him. She don't farm. She didn't work. Her job was to raise his children, love him and his children. She was broken, and it's very hard when you're of that community and that culture to be allowed to show this. I think she was very, very strong, but she's raising those kids. She's loving those kids, and she's missing her first and only love that she had at that time when he passed. That was her world. Susan didn't know what to do without Mo. She was just as lost as my sister-in-law was, which brought about in a silver lining. Once again, I want to state, brought about such a great relationship with our family and the Bontrager family. And now Jody has taken up what my brother did. She helps drive them around, just as my brother did. But our families have really bonded, and we're thankful for that. It's sad that it took a moment like this to do that. But on the behalf of the Bontrager family, I know they're grieving. They still grieve. Every time she looks in her son's face, she sees her husband. And I just want to say, I'm sorry that we're hearing this is happening, Alondra. We don't wish no harm on you whatsoever. And as a mother, I've worried about my children sitting in the same seat that you're sitting in. And I prayed every day that when it happened. And I pray that you never see that seat again. And that you go on with the rest of your life and do right and do good. And I don't know what else to say.
All right, thank you. That's all very much from the heart. These people aren't just names on a piece of paper. They're people with lives and loved ones, and it's always good to know more. You're here on behalf of Mr. Bontrager. Do you wish to speak? All right, and you're his niece? Sister? As a rule, the members of the Amish community are very loving and forgiving, and they don't very rarely would speak at court. Recently, we've had a terrible stretch of cases where young Amish people are victims of vehicular deaths. We have 2 that happened this last year and several in the area. You're in a buggy, you're on a bicycle, you can be very vulnerable. And there's been a lot of heartache in our Amish community recently because of vehicular deaths. Ms. Davis, anything else you wish to add?
Just briefly, Your Honor. There's not much more I can really add as far as the family goes, other than to offer also our sincerest condolences and apologies for how this has all transpired with their family. I did want to point out to the court that when this case was filed, I was not a part of the case. I did work at the office. A note in the file that our prior victims' rights coordinator received a phone call from Mr. Waring's mother in June of 2021, inquiring about what's going on. They had also sent in, Jody Waring, the wife, had sent in a victim impact statement, because as the way the process has worked at that time, when a case is authorized, it triggers the victim rights office to send out an initial victim impact packet and a form letter that explains what the rights of the family members are. It's not personalized. It's not a great option, and we have changed that. Jody did what the letter said: return this and we'll keep you informed. I think that's disingenuous the way that it was done prior, because in looking at what was sent to the family, it's a form letter every time. And all it says is a pretrial conference is scheduled on such and such date. Pretrial conferences are private meetings attended by the defendant, defense attorney, and the prosecutors only. Underlined, it says your attendance is not required. After this meeting, if the case is not resolved, it will be scheduled for another pretrial conference or may be placed on the court schedule for trial. If you have questions, please contact our office, and it gives the phone number. That's the extent of the letter that is sent to a family who lost a loved one, who doesn't understand the court process, who doesn't understand what their rights are, their right to speak with a prosecutor prior to having the case resolved before any final negotiations are done. But what they also didn't know, and I didn't realize until it smacked me in the face when I came back and had to deal with cases like this, there is no repercussions for the prosecutor failing to follow the Victim Rights Act. There's nothing. You can't do anything. I can't undo what was done, even though it is wrong. You shouldn't make a deal on a case when the victim's family has no idea what's going on, and they've tried to be involved. They've contacted. It's unfortunate. Maybe someday that will change, but at this point, the best I can do is tell them that I'm sorry. And I think what they said today to the defendant was from the heart, and I fully support what they have said. And with that, I have nothing further regarding this case. Thank you.
Thanks. You can't hire a prosecutor. You can hire your own lawyer. If you don't like the lawyer you have, you can hire one that you think will do a better job serving you. You can't hire the prosecutor. You get what you get. And I used to have that job, and it was a very important job, probably the best job I ever had. But you get what you get. Mr. Reed came into this case and did a lot of investigation and research. There are some problems proving this case in defense of the previous prosecutor. Neither one of these cars had an electronic black box, which will tell you how fast the car was going, when the brakes were applied, that sort of thing. Neither car had that. So that information just was not available. Modern cars have them. I think any car probably made in the last 10 years has one, but neither one of these cars had a black box. For reasons, again, wasn't part of the investigation. They never called in an accident reconstructionist. They had an accident investigator, but they never had a reconstructionist, which can give more information about what and how the accident was caused. This case was not an easy case for the prosecutor to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They could have gone to trial and the defendant could have been acquitted. However, she agreed with Mr. Reed's guidance to accept responsibility in this manner. This was not a line drive of a case. There were factual issues, as I indicated. It wasn't investigated very well, and there were other issues, so it may have been difficult to prove it. So they reached this agreement, and a plea agreement is the province of the prosecutor and the defense attorney, not the judge. Once they reach it, I'll follow it. As far as I can tell, Ms. Aguilar has complied with every terms of this plea agreement. My understanding was she had no criminal record, and I believe not much of any of a driving record. She had a valid driver's license at the time this occurred. As you indicated, there were no drugs or alcohol involved, no indication of high speed. The allegation was she crossed the center line. Doesn't make it any easier. I tell new judges at new judge school that these are the most difficult sentences that district judges have. They're also among the most difficult cases the prosecutor has. They're misdemeanors with a death. And we can't unbreak it. And there's a lot of heartache, and there's not enough satisfaction for anybody. Mr. Reed, do you or your client wish to speak to this further?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I believe Mr. Waring's sister is 100% correct when she stated, regardless of how it occurred, what occurred, the loss is still real and the loss is there, and that is true. As the court's aware, I represent individuals sitting in their seat as well as individuals sitting in Ms. Aguilar's seat. And there is no easy answer. There are no easy cases. These are difficult. Ms. Davis is put in a very difficult spot as well. Because I can state this affirmatively. When I was working through this case, I never had a conversation with Ms. Davis about this case. So she was, to my knowledge, not working on it, not aware of the facts here. I did work with various prosecutors in that office. I can't speak to anything that Ms. Davis spoke to about the communication. I do know that this was a difficult case, and Ms. Aguilar does not speak real well. She was in the hospital. This isn't saying, hey, you should feel bad for her, but she spent a couple months in the hospital in a wheelchair. If you watch her walk out, she walks with an exaggeration. She has metal rods and screws. So she was also injured and has a forever remembrance. I've never spoken with her in which she hasn't broken down and had tears in her eyes talking about this case. People express their sorrow and their grief and their fear differently. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the comments from the family. All individuals here in these early morning hours of December of 2020 were on their way to work. Mr. Waring, Mr. Bontrager, they were heading to work. Ms. Aguilar was on her way to work in Coldwater. And, you know, I believe Mr. Waring's sister stated, well, there's no signs of anything. She did turn over her phone when they asked, and it was an iPhone, and she gave them the password, the passcode, and, you know, let them do whatever they needed to do to try to confirm that she wasn't texting or using the phone or wasn't accessed, and that appeared to be looked at by the police. Again, we'll never have an exact answer as to what happened that day. We don't know. We do know that two people tragically lost their lives. We know that Miss Aguilar was in the vehicle, driver of one vehicle, and Mr. Williams the driver of the other, and Mr. Bontrager was a passenger. Beyond that, what led up to that point of impact, we don't know. And I think to a large degree at this point, I'm not sure how that affects the grieving process or if it fixes it, other than there's still great loss on the side of their families. And for that, I know she is sorry. I know that these are difficult cases. Miss Aguilar did spend time in jail in this. I don't know if the court is aware, but she did when she was arrested in Indiana, which was a little bit bizarre that they did an extradition on a misdemeanor, which doesn't happen quite often. But here, she waived extradition in Indiana and said, I'm happy to go to St. Joseph County, Michigan, if they claim I wanted. And she was brought up here and then released.
My recollection was she spent like 8 days or something in jail in Indiana.
About
Yeah.
a week, yeah.
Because they were trying to figure out what was going on here. And I think also too, I don't want to speak too much on behalf of the prosecutor at the time, but I think that was factored in as well, that there was essentially a jail sentence that was imposed up front on this as well. And again, it's a tragic situation. We're not making excuses. We're not making light of it. It's terrible that we're here. I share that I wish we weren't here. It is good to hear that the families have created a bond. It is unfortunate that bond had to be created though. So with that, we'd ask that the court just follow the agreement and the statements were put on the record and close this matter out, Your Honor.
Ms. Aguilar, do you wish to say anything?
Yes. I just want to say that I'm really sorry to the family members that have a loss due to this accident that I wish never happened. And I know that they will probably never live the same life that they did before, but I hope that one day they can move forward and forgive me. And I'm just really sorry.
All right, that pretty much sums it up. I'm glad you were here. I hope the Waring family's watching this as we go forward. The defendant has complied with the terms of the plea agreement. I'm going to enter a judgment for careless driving, which is a civil infraction. Fine and costs for careless driving is $150. Let me see if there's any bond money in here. She posted a surety
Yeah,
bond.
I believe it was through a surety agent at the time. That'll be paid within 30 days, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Aguilar, by May 23rd, excuse me. You have $150. Careless, I believe, carries 3 points.
Yes.
We'll put 3 points on your driving record. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It puts a face on this. Her face has been here. There's been a lot of suffering. I'm sorry it took so long, but as far as the legal process is concerned, this matter is completed. You're all free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.